to push the North to ensure that they know what they are doing, the damage they are causing, and to know they must provide a solution.
In the recent decades, global warming has become a critical concern for the world and thus gaining unprecedented attention. The discourse around this issue has frequently emphasized the responsibility of the countries in the global north over those in the global south in contributing to the rising global temperatures. During the United Nations Annual Climate Conference COP28 that was held in Dubai in 2023, over 170 countries with a shared desire to mitigate the pressing issue of global warming came together and with some countries advocating for funding packages to enable especially the countries in the global south to mitigate climate damage and pursue sustainable development. Others, like the United States of America, distance themselves from such provisions. And since fossil fuels, one of the major contributors to global warming, I will put my focus on Uganda, a young and ambitious nation, backing on oil projects to drive economic growth and development, despite facing criticisms from both environmental and human rights impacts of the initiative. First of all, I'll talk about 5 major factors. I'll talk about the significance of oil production to the country. Secondly, since the world is aiming at having net zero emissions by 2050, how do major corporations behind this project look at such provisions? And furthermore, I'll talk about the relation between the project and human rights, and I'll also talk about the impacts of the project on the flow of the Nile and the region, since we are seeing that Albert is interconnected with River Nile, which is shared by over 10 countries. And lastly, I'll talk about the effects of this project on the environment and biodiversity. So first of all, let me talk about the importance of this project to the country. First of all, we are seeing that oil was discovered in 2006, and in 2023 programs of exploitation of this resource were initiated, and it is estimated that over the next 25 years, every day, over 230,000 barrels of oil will be produced at peak, and over time, 1.4 billion barrels will be produced. This will amount to over 400 billion US dollars, which is a significant impact on the economy, depending on how it is held. Furthermore, we are seeing that this project is going to cost over 5 billion to be completed, but of this money the country has got less of it, if not nothing. So that means that most of the money is going to be borrowed from outside, and right now we are seeing that the country has got a total debt of 96.1 billion, having 56.6 yes from outside the country, or like from the countries in the global north, and also 48 from within the country. And so borrowing more to have the initiation of this project may also cause an extra mile to the date. And furthermore, we are seeing that right now the debt constitutes of 52% of the country's GDP. So as time goes on, there will be need to finance the debt as time goes on, and this in long run will impact the country. So leaving along that, we have seen that there's also negative implications on the lives of the people. First of all, people were forced to vacate from the region of the Albertine, with 2 main alternatives. The country told them that, the government gave them 2 main options. One of them was, first of all, to allow vacate to a place allocated to them by the government, or allow the low value compensation, and most of them decided to go with vacating to a place allocated to them by the government. But as this happened, we are seeing that this is a very vital region for the country in the concern of biodiversity. And we saw that there was also removal of swamps, forests, and other vital elements that cool down the global temperatures. And due to that, we have seen that there is a problem of flooding. Yes, I'll talk about that later. And apart from flooding, there have been a problem of famine, because first of all, due to these changes, the removal of all these vital resources such as swamps and forests, there was a change in the climate. Now people don't know when to grow crops and when to harvest and something of that kind, and that leads to to famine. People cannot grow enough food for themselves. And furthermore, looking at the floods, because oil production and also the drilling of oil will also require the country to try to move some water, like to disperse some water into different ponds, and this will affect the flow of the water. And as time goes on, as water has always found out its way, it will have to go by people's crops. That's causing flooding and also disrupting production, because we saw that in the past decades the country has been relying more on agriculture as a major backbone of its survival. But having this impact of the project conflicting with the environment and production, that might yield some negative implications to the country, especially in the long run. And secondly, I'll talk about the net emissions by 2050. We have two major companies. There's Sinopec, a Chinese company that is owning 80%, and also Total Energies that is owning 62%. Countries, Uganda and Tanzania, owning 15% each. That's making 100%. So we are seeing that the country is gaining little, not even 50%, not even 75%, but it's gaining little of the profits. And these corporations are supposed to work in the call of the global aims of having zero emissions by 2050. But we are seeing that this project is going to take over 25 years. That means that by 2045, that is the estimated time of of the project to have ended or even continued. So these corporations are not in line with the global call of having zero emissions, which is dangerous to the country and also the world at large, because any effect on climate in Uganda is not estimated to affect Uganda only, but it is going to affect the whole of the globe, and that's increasing the levels of global warming. And I'll talk about this project. It has violated human rights because people have no say, especially in this project, and they have no fair share to the project because they were displaced. They lost their culture, because after having displaced, cultures were lost. Flooding, that communityship. People were used to each other, but now they were forced into other places, whereby they are facing rape and other atrocities that are considered to be disastrous to humanity. So this has received boycotting from different countries, especially some over 200, like over 27 financing partners have withdrawn from the project in the concerns of human rights. And we are going to see now the impact of this project on Nile. First of all, Nile moves from Lake Victoria, it goes through Lake Albert, then it moves to South Sudan, up to when it gets into Egypt. So we're seeing that over 10 countries survive by this river. So the fact that crucial surroundings such as wetlands have been removed, and thus they are also more vital in water filtration and water regulation. This may affect the flow of the Nile upwards to other countries, and furthermore, drawing large amounts of water from Lake Albert and Lake Albert as a cause of ensuring that this project is moved on smoothly. This will affect the flow of the river to upstream, because you find that these countries like Egypt, which 90% of its residents survive on the Nile, may not have enough water to facilitate their livelihood. And furthermore, oil spills and leaks that come from these extraction processes may also pollute the water, and thus causing more micro impacts on the livelihood of the people. And furthermore, we're seeing that even if these things are happening, but Uganda is not the first country to engage in oil, there are some provisions that could be implied by the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, that is responsible for the environment, such as investment in technology to ensure that there is a thorough analysis on how oil is going to be extracted from underground without affecting the environment. Also, regional cooperation, especially within these countries that share the Nile, and also they should assess the impact and also implicate some strict environmental regulations to ensure that there is no further effects on especially the environment, because it is vital to humanity. And in the next series, I'll talk about the effect of this project on environment and biodiversity, and I've used some data from Al Jazeera to try to pry into this section.
One of the most important centres of biodiversity in Africa, home to many endangered birds and animals, and a vital foreign income generator for Uganda. At its heart, the Falls, the astonishingly powerful torrent of water that transforms into the greatest river in the world, the Nile. Total plans to build 8 well pads in a line through the park, and at least 2 more may come later. Each well pad will contain multiple wells and will be linked by new roads and oil pipelines.
This park is very huge. It is roughly 4,000 square kilometers. The area we'll use for the operation is 1.2 square kilometers. We have taken a lot of commitment regarding the biodiversity within the park, fighting against poaching, restoring wetlands, reforestation.
In conclusion, this project is not only a disaster to the country, but also to the world at large in the concerns of global warming. And thus, our call as Ugandans is that the world should boycott, just as others have done, this project to ensure that there is no furthering of the provisions aimed to nourish this project, so as to better serve the environment and the people of Uganda.